And now, the After Action Review with Rod Rodriguez.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 34 of the After Action Review podcast. I'm your host, Rod Rodriguez. Barely have a voice right now, so bear with me, but we're going to get through this episode. In this episode, we'll be discussing a program being offered by Dartmouth School of Business, TUC, for veterans that basically offers graduate-level business transition education in a 12-day certificate of completion course. Now, when I heard about this program, I wanted to not only share it with you, but learn about it for myself too. But this led me to really question the value of a business education. Now, many of you considering entrepreneurship have shared with me your goals of attaining a master's degree, basically an MBA. Now, from the outside, it seems like an MBA would be a logical choice for an advanced degree for anyone interested in business, but how much does it actually help you? Do you need one? Now, the internet is full of business owners, CEOs, entrepreneurs. They're going to tell you, no, you don't need an MBA. In fact, it's not only a waste of time, it can set you up for some really bad habits later on. There's also the cost of the degree. Thousands of graduate students go into debt every year chasing an MBA, a degree that some experts are simply saying is not worth the money. So I decided to talk to a veteran entrepreneur who knows about the Dartmouth program and has an MBA to find out what kind of education does an entrepreneur need to be successful in the world of business.
My name's Jack O'Toole. I'm a retired Marine. After retiring from the Marine Corps, I went to business school at TUC, so I did my MBA there. And now I run a startup called Fresh Air Sensor, where we develop and commercialize sensors to protect people from hazardous chemicals. Our first two we're commercializing are nicotine and a component of burned marijuana. They go in a device we produce, and people install our device, use our app to connect to our cloud-based backend, and then we monitor areas for them. So when we detect smoking, we let them know, and we followed up with a time-coded chart giving them scientific proof that somebody's smoking in a prohibited area. And we're developing other sensors. And then I'm also working with a company people might have heard of called MVP, Mobile Virtual Player. They had a Super Bowl commercial last year. They make robot tackling dummies. Half the NFL teams have them. And I'm helping them develop a tactical version, the shootable dummy, that it drives around, you shoot it, it goes down, you shoot it. So you can have live moving targets on live fire ranges and in the house. So when I was a student at TUC, they came to all of the veteran students, and they were they wanted to do something for veterans, and they asked us what they could do. And so an SF friend and I said that we really thought that, you know, in our culture, before you go someplace to do something, you do cultural training and you do language training, and you want to understand that culture. And that's the reason I went to get an MBA, straight out for cultural training. There's some other things you get out of it that I didn't understand before, but it was cultural training. So we said that if you could run a program a couple weeks long where veterans getting out could come and they could learn kind of the parameters of their own ignorance. Like we'd say all the time that you don't know what you don't know. Like the idea was to help people know what they don't know and to help people learn to talk like business people so you can better translate the great skills we learn in the military to a civilian application.
What does an attendee walk out of that program with?
So it's a certificate program. Obviously, it's not a degree, but you get a certificate for having attended it. And people certainly put it on their resume that they attended it. Though one of my best friends went to the first course last year. He's another retired Marine. But everybody I knew in there made a lot of connections in there. They did a lot of networking in there and have really worked a lot with the other veterans and athletes that were in that class. Like he works for an AI company, and he made a lot of connections with other companies there that he's then now worked on and developed into business for his company. You kind of get an overview of what you would learn in an MBA. You have great speakers, like world-renowned business thinkers, come in and talk to you. I went to some of their stuff last year. My favorite part was General McChrystal came and spent the afternoon with the class. To me, that was awesome. I mean, he's such a superstar. It was great to listen to him and then get to talk to him after.
So when it comes to an MBA, do you need one to be a successful entrepreneur? Now, I've heard two arguments. One saying that you learn by doing, and another saying that you'll learn the ins and outs of business with an MBA.
So I think there's some truth in both of those things. So there's a lot of reasons to go to different schools. There's a lot of reasons you weight different things. But if you're looking purely at a financial ROI, return on investment, you don't get a very good return on an MBA if you don't go to a top 10 school. There's about 20 schools that have a credible claim to being in the top 10 because of the different ranking systems. But if you go to one of those schools, you can basically become whatever you want. So if you want to be, go to Goldman Sachs, you want to go to top 3 consulting firm, maybe not specifically Goldman Sachs, but a top banking firm, top consulting, top consumer packaged goods, top business school, you can get into one of those. But if you go to a lower business school, it's going to cost about as much as a top business school, and you're just not going to get the same return. One thing I would highlight is that Tuck and Darden, both you can go to and get 100% paid for by your GI Bill. I think they're the only top 10 business school out of the top 10 that you can do that. But so both those, GI Bill covers 100%.
What do you actually get out of an MBA?
You get 3 things out of business school. One is specific knowledge, which, if you're a motivated guy and you understand the parameters of what you need to learn, I think you could probably learn that on your own, or you could learn a lot, right? Another thing is the network. So I know a lot of other Tuckies now that work in very important companies. So if I want to talk to somebody at one of those companies, I call up a friend and they connect me. So it's like when you're in the military, right? Like if you try and do something kind of the formal way, it can be very hard. But if you call up one of your buddies, he's like, oh yeah, just let me talk to this guy for you. And then you go talk to him with a warm intro and, you're good. So, that network is super helpful. I have to say, every problem I've had in my business, that network has helped me solve. Whether I needed information or I needed to get connected to somebody, that network's always been very, very helpful. And the third thing is validation. Because you're getting this really nice stamp on you. So, it's does going to the Q course or ITC or Buds make you a badass? Or Ranger School make you a badass? No, it does not. You might be a badass and go there. You might not be a badass and make it through there, right? But that validation means a lot to people.
How do the benefits of an MBA differ for someone who wants to be a player in the corporate world versus someone who wants to be an entrepreneur?
So on that side, I think if that's what you want, if you want to get into big corporate America, you want to talk the talk, you want to play that game where you work intensely hard and do what they want you to do. A top 10 MBA will put you in a very good position to do that you would have a hard time getting in otherwise. If you want to build your own thing, it's helped me building my own thing because my company's a technology company. We had to raise money, So an MBA, I think if you're going to do, Peter Thiel calls them a 0 to 1 business or a 1 to N business. A 0 to 1 business where you're going to figure out something, you're going to be the first person to ever do it, and you're going to really have to work through a lot of processes, and there's going to be a lot of pitching and a lot of getting money involved in it. In that, between the validation and the network, I would go get an MBA. You might choose not to. You might decide you're just going to figure it out, but I would choose to get an MBA. If you're doing a 1 to N business where, you're opening a barbershop or you're opening whatever kind of company that there's other ones like it, where what it's all about is you being very good at what you're doing and operationally doing better than other people, then, if you decided you didn't need an MBA, I could understand that. That would make sense. I'm thinking about another kind of company. I'm doing some research on it right now. And this kind of company, I need a couple organic chemists and I need to hustle, right? That company, would I need my MBA for it? Probably not. I think it could make some money. It's interesting. It could help some people. But this program at Tuck, I would say for what it costs, I would have anybody go to it.
Who should go to this program at Tuck's business school?
I'd say, are you going to accomplish something in that 2 weeks that's going to move you forward more than going and seeing all this? And if you are, then you shouldn't do it. But if you're not going to accomplish more in that 2 weeks, then, going and meeting a bunch of other vets and kind of seeing what they teach at top business schools and, seeing top business leaders come talk to you, then it would be smart to me to go.
Tell me more about your business. Tell me more about your business, Fresh Air.
At Fresh Air, we develop sensors. It's a lot of big words, but they're called molecularly imprinted polymers. It's sensors that only bind up with a very specific molecule, so it allows them to be very sensitive and very specific. I know you're younger, but when I was a young guy, the idea that I would be working with a Soviet Army guy was impossible. But he's a chemist now that works with me. But to me, honestly, it's very much like what I used to do. Like, it's complex problem solving, right? So every day you're in there trying to solve hard problems. And then as soon as they're done, there's a different hard problem. And I love it. But hotels and property management companies and dorms and any place with elderly people are really getting a lot of benefit out of what we're doing. So it's very exciting. All of us went in the military because we wanted to do something good and make a difference. I mean, I know I'm an Eagle Scout. Like, that's a driver for me. Like, I want to do good things that make a difference. So when I heard that, as in one job, I used to travel 200 days a year when I was in. So, I stayed in hotels a lot. And, I know this is something that it's not just it bothers people. It's dangerous for people to be exposed to these chemicals. So for me, that to do something that I think is going to make a real difference and help people and that people really want, that was super exciting for me.
So what is your intent? How did you find your purpose in business? That thing that you believed in enough to build a business around?
I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, right? Like, I like stacking up on doors and doing raids and, going places and doing weird stuff. So to get a real job I did not have any idea what I should do. And I figured this out by accident, but I talked to a guy about a job, what he did for work one day. And then I talked to another guy the next day who did the same thing. And I realized the first guy didn't like it. And the second guy really liked it. And I figured out that if somebody doesn't like what they do, it was really hard for me to tease out what it was about the job that I might like or not like. So after that, when I was going around networking and talking to people about different jobs, because I spent a lot of effort trying to figure out what I wanted to be, I really worked hard to find people just loved what they do. Because if you talk to somebody that loves what they do and it sounds terrible to you, that's not a job for you. If you talk about somebody that doesn't like what they do and it doesn't sound good to you, how do you know? Right? So, I spent a lot of effort trying to find people that really, really liked what they do so I could figure out if I would like what they do. I eventually figured out that it really matters to me to do things that make a difference and that I really, really like complex problem solving. Some people can get that same satisfaction, helping individuals by running a gym or teaching something or, providing products that people really love, like making shirts people love or coffee or whatever, right? But for me, I don't know. I like technology. I think it's interesting. And I like things that make a difference.
I think one of the most important things you have to do as a new startup is surround yourself with other business folks. When you have non-business people around you, they may not get what you're trying to do. They'll think they're helping you, but in fact, they're discouraging you.
Oh, yeah. And other founders, don't crap on your idea, even when it's a bad idea. They'll say hey, so have you done market research? Have you gone out and talked to customers to see if people really want this? They'll say that to steer you in the right direction, but nobody will say something's a stupid idea, or not. Most people will not say it's a stupid idea, particularly since there's things you see that you think are stupid ideas that end up being successful. Somebody I know started a company that I thought was just dumb, but I helped them and they sold it. I was like, there's no possible way this can work. And they sold it for a decent amount.
We're now in the what went wrong part of an AAR. What are some challenges that you've faced in business that almost derailed you?
Oh, I think I hope people know that entrepreneurship's super emotionally volatile. There's times when you're you think you're killing it, and then you get hit in the face with a frying pan, and you're just why am I even doing this? This is dumb. And you just wrestle through it and keep moving on. It's all over the place. So, I've had thousands of setbacks. But, I mean, like one of my employees, basically didn't want to tell our contract. We made our first version of the device and it didn't perform the way we wanted it to. So we were intensely working to figure out how to make it better to give the level of performance that we needed. And, one of my employees, like, who was coordinating with the contract manufacturer, basically didn't want to tell the contract manufacturer that we were halting production because he felt bad. And so he didn't tell him and let another forecast go in. So the contract manufacturer bought all these parts to make like the next round of devices, like 150 grand worth that we weren't going to make. And then I ended up having to talk to their CEO and like we had to pay for that. So I'm having to like choke up $150,000 for something that I don't know how much of it we're ever going to use. I mean, hopefully we'll use a lot of it, but it was not how that money should have been spent at that time. So, I mean, that was like getting hit by a truck. I was just like, oh. I mean, it's like when you're in, right? You stop, you breathe in, you breathe out. You're like, best case, worst case, okay. Worst case, we'll figure it out. And then you just start mitigating to try and make it better, right? You start figuring out, hey, can we stop anything still? Like, how much of this can we use now? Can we convert some of these things? Can we get more of this built and just get it in here so we can, what are we going to use in the next version of the device that we can still be okay, right? So you're just work. I mean, you get your head down and like talking to the engineers and spreadsheets and just trying to figure out how it can be less bad.
Every person has someone they look up to: Bezos, Jobs, Gates. Where do you turn for inspiration and motivation?
Sure. I mean, everybody looks up to like the big guys, right? Like there's the same big people like everybody looks up to. But for me, what's been really helpful is other people that are near me that have been, advised me and helped me. Like Tillman Gerngross is a biotech guy who started several billion-dollar companies. Like he's been a great advisor to me. A friend of mine, Dan Richards, runs this company, Global Rescue, that they come help you if something goes wrong when you're traveling. They're available for you to solve problems when you're traveling. Like a lot of former SEALs actually work there. And like he's been an awesome advisor. My friend Trip Davis, he started 2 companies that he took public, one in technology and one in the travel industry. Like he's like such a good mentor. Oh, Andy Palmer, he started like one biotech company and 2 or 3 technology companies. He's CEO of Tamer right now. He's been awesome. All of them like stay humble, right? Like all of them have killed it. They've done so great. Like I hope to do as great as they've done. They've all been great leaders, built great companies, but all of them like understand that every day there's another problem, right? And you're always going to be out there wrestling problems. And so that, your problems today might be their problems tomorrow. So they're just good guys about like, they never dictate anything to you. They're like, well, this is what I think. Like, I would do this, like, given what I understand about what you're asking me, right? I mean, that kind of, this is my best swing at it thing, to me is a lot easier to take on board than when somebody acts like they really 100% know what they're doing. I think being an entrepreneur helps you be humble because you take a lot of shots. Every time you think you're like really great, like something will convince you you're not.
Now there's a veteran watching or listening to this and they're ready to start their business. What's something you think they should be thinking about before they jump in?
I think it's easy to imagine people are going to care about our service, right? Like we all went out there and made big sacrifices to serve our nation, and some people care, but I think most people, like, I don't know, it's just not really on their radar. It's not that they don't care, that they don't respect veterans. Like if you ask them, they will, but you got to create value and bring them value. Like what you've done before it helps you, but it doesn't really give you much relationship or situational capital with them. I mean, I have like in-laws who still ask me how it was in the Army, right? I mean, like people just don't know. I don't blame them, but they just don't know. Weren't you in the Army? You used to have like wear camouflage or something? I'm like, yeah, whatever, basically. Don't worry about what the people around you say. go find some people who've done something like you want to do or have built something and are wrestling with like operating a company every day, and talk to them about it. Because a guy, like not one guy, but 10 people, men or women, who are actually running companies tell you like, I think that's going to be really hard. It's probably going to be really hard, and maybe you should still do it. I don't know. But like having other people who don't wrestle that every day tell you, they just don't know. It's like a civilian telling you whether or not you should go to selection. Like, how do they know?
Where can we go to learn more about the Dartmouth program, and how can we get a hold of you?
They have a website, Next Steps. If you put in Tuck Next Steps, it'll come up. There's a lot of information there. If somebody wants to ask me about it, go ahead and message me. Jack O'Toole. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. They can go ahead and DM me. And I can connect them with friends that went to it last year if they would like to talk to them.
All right, folks, I want to thank Jack O'Toole for taking time out of his very busy schedule to be on the show. If you want to get more information about this program in Dartmouth, just go to http://nextstep.tuck.dartmouth.edu. You can also reach Jack O'Toole at freshairsensor.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/JackO'Toole503. All of those links are going to be attached to this podcast, and he is very open to answering any questions you may have about this Next Step program at Dartmouth. All right, folks, that does it for me. Be sure to like, listen, subscribe, and share this podcast. This is a really important thing, guys. Every time you support this podcast, you're supporting every veteran-owned business that comes onto it. So, like, listen, subscribe, and share. Check us out on Instagram and on Facebook, the AAR Podcast. I also have a blog cast. That's right. If you are on the Anchor app, and I'm right there, just check out the AAR Blogcast. If you don't know what the Anchor app is, think of it like Snapchat for your ears. Okay, so check that out, the AAR Blogcast. All right, folks, I will see you at the next episode.